Now, listen, Perry, there are a lot of takeaways from that England game last night. And I know we kind of joked on the warm-up earlier. It's a friendly. People shouldn't get too overexcited about it. But from my perspective, I'm confused as to what Gareth Southgate's approach is, right? At this point in the tournament, you've got this one more friendly on Belgium on Tuesday, live on talkSPORT, and then they've got the two friendlies in the build-up to itself, Bosnia and Iceland at St James's Park and at Wembley in June, right? I feel like in previous years, or when we've not had managers who have been in place as long as Southgate has, there's always been this kind of conversation about, are you looking to settle in your starting lineup? Are you still trying to figure out some of those positions? Are you figuring out the kind of numbers 18 to 23, 24, 25 of your squad? Like, what are you using these friendlies for? And I think my real frustration with this game, we talked a little bit about it being, was he being too cautious with it? The guy's clearly a fantastic man manager. He's clearly a guy who has fostered a really great spirit in this England squad. But that kind of insistent on sticking with his favourites, on not moving things around tactically, this talk about the 40-long player list, missing a third of his players, doesn't that mean this is the perfect opportunity to try something? Isn't it the perfect opportunity to look at Ollie Watkins and say, that man isn't like for like with Kane, so let's figure out an actual plan B instead of just dropping Ollie Watkins into the team and try and having him play the same role? Isn't it the perfect chance to try someone like Kobbie Mainoo in midfield? Isn't it? It just felt to me all a little bit stale last night.
Yeah, but you're saying about Gareth Southgate experimenting, as you just said, that he's not that type of manager. That's not what he's going to do, because I've been critical in the past of him not making substitutions, as quickly as what he should do. In the Europa final against Italy, he should have made substitutions quicker in the midfield area. Against France, when we're in the ascendancy, again, he should make substitutions in the forward areas a lot quicker than what he did. So I think he's always going to be a little bit reticent to do that, and he's not going to be this maverick coach that changes formations. He wants basically either a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1. That's how he wants to play. And you mentioned Ollie Watkins there. I think, unfortunately for Ollie Watkins, and because England didn't play particularly well, and I said about the passing wasn't great, and Ollie Watkins likes to run channels, which he's done brilliantly for Aston Villa because, they hold a high line, they play a little bit different. He gets himself in the box more. I think he's played himself out of being the go-to if you haven't got Harry Kane, because he didn't play particularly well against North Macedonia. When he had his chance, he played up front there. He didn't set the world alight yesterday. And so I think that on Tuesday against Belgium, then Ivan Toney will play. And I think if you're going to look like a replacement for Harry Kane, not his stature, obviously, but a replacement, not a lookalike, I think Ivan Toney fits that mould perfectly, because when you see him play for Brentford, he can drop off and he can link up play. His vision is good. He's got good passing range. He's got a physicality, and I think I think Ivan Toney has a presence when you're playing as a lone striker up front that Ollie Watkins doesn't have, because obviously they're different players. They've got different strengths. So I think if you're going to look for just a replacement for Harry Kane, it is Ivan Toney. And I think if he plays on Belgium against Belgium on Tuesday, he's got a great chance to cement that second striker spot.
I want to be really clear on this as well. I think Ollie Watkins is an excellent player.
He's been brilliant for Aston Villa this season.
And his improvement over the last 2 years, you could argue, he's one of the most improved players in the entire Premier League in that time. 16 goals in the Premier League already this season. He's clearly a guy that you want to have on the plane, you want to have in the squad, you want to be able to bring on if you're looking for a goal, because he has got an eye for goal. He missed his one chance last night, which you can have the argument that the defender did get a touch on it before he managed to hit it.
I think it was the touch when it comes from Chilwell, when it comes to him, the touch that is his knee, I think that he's expecting the defender to get it before the defender actually got his toe onto it. So if he takes a better touch out of his feet, then he gets a clean shot away.
Which it comes back to what you were saying earlier about the positivity, about that whole approach to things. Like, I feel like in an Aston Villa shirt, the exact same chance, with not that weight of expectation of being the guy replacing Harry Kane. I feel like we've seen Ollie Watkins take chances like that. And yet, when we talk about the importance of Kane and why it needs a plan B, I think Jude Bellingham looks like probably England's best player, best in kind of air quotes, but I don't think he's their most important player. I think Harry Kane is the guy that everything goes through. He is the kind of technical leader on the pitch. He holds the ball up. He brings teammates into play. You see them constantly running beyond him, and that creates space for them. And Bellingham didn't have a second on the ball last night, for example. I think he gets that with Harry Kane being a focus. And even just stuff like every set piece, defensive or whether it's going forward, he's the guy who's getting the head on the ball. He's the one making the run. Some of those really poor balls from wide yesterday, and there were a lot of them, you feel like if Harry Kane's in there, those balls don't suddenly look so poor. And it really highlighted to me, A, how important he is, which I think is an obvious observation, but also that there just isn't a plan B if he's not there. And I think you do have to go tactically. We can't run things exactly the same. We have to change things, whether that's 2 up front, whether that's changing it to a 3 behind. Nothing about that inspired me last night that we would do well if he got hurt.
I know you're saying obviously Harry Kane is, you're saying, the most important player for us. I think there's 4. I think there's 4. That 4 of these players aren't fit, then we won't win Euros. And I think you've got John Stones, Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane. I think they're 4 that you're going to struggle to replace, of players of the same quality in that position, because we're struggling for another midfield player to play alongside Declan Rice anyway. So there's 8 players that I think Gareth Southgate has got in his head and he thinks, right, they're my starters. I think you go Pickford, Walker, Stones, Saka, Rice, Bellingham, Foden and Kane. And then obviously you have Harry Maguire, which I think is like the 9th one, you know, in inverted commas. And then you've got the left-back situation and then the left-sided forward. So I think there's 8 that he's already got in his mind that they're going to be starters.
I don't think Harry Maguire, by the way, played badly last night. I just think the sight of Harry Maguire surrounded by a bunch of young, teenage, 20-something Brazilian players with a lot of pace, with a great first touch, with it, just, you know, he's got the turning circle of a London double-decker bus, and that's where, you know, you lose Kyle Walker from the team. We talked about recovery speed with Tyreek Mitchell earlier. That was scary to me, and it makes me think that as well as that, we're going to talk about the midfield question coming up next, about what you do alongside Declan Rice. But it's another reason I think that he's cautious, because he goes, I need to be protecting those guys at all time, which means I'm always going to keep Rice deep, which means he doesn't get to show off the brilliance that he's shown this season at Arsenal.
Yeah, I think with Declan Rice, you saw yesterday where he was trying to get the team going. He was getting the ball, making himself available, you know, passing it forwards, having little interceptions. But there was a bit of frustration because I said before that the game was so disjointed and there wasn't like a fluidity in our passing. So he struggled with that as well. I think with Harry Maguire, if you looked at the mistake that he made yesterday, it was actually where he's facing his own. He didn't get turned. He was actually facing his own goal. And it was just it was Rafinha should have scored when it was just a bad pass which goes back to Jordan Pickford. And that's just about concentration levels. I think with England, Harry Maguire, to be fair to him, he doesn't put himself in positions very rarely where he does get exposed in behind him. And I know there was a time yesterday where we lost the ball, and I think it was Vinicius who went through, and Kyle Walker actually should have gone for his run. We played a high line, and he got in behind, and Kyle Walker ends up, stopping the ball from going over the line. So I think Harry Kane feels safe next to John Stones. Sorry, Harry Maguire feels safe next to John Stones. So I think I said there was 8, and there's that. Obviously, Harry Maguire will be the centre half next to him. But again, I'd rather have a quicker left-sided centre half if you're going to play the 4.